The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. And with, traveling to Mexico, Japan, all around Europe and Canada, do you think that helped to develop your style as well? Did you bring on all these different elements from the countries you were traveling to? And do you think that kind of made you more of a rounded wrestler, Marty?
It was a norm in them days. You'd either a gimmick man, or you could wrestle, or you could do. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of people used to like going on with me because I just wanted a good match all the time. No matter who I was on with, I wanted a good match. Yeah. And in our day, if two good workers got on together, Pete Roberts, Terry Rudds, so underestimated. But them guys, I had my second ever match on with Tony Charles. Oh, Billy trained you, did he? Yeah. And you looked at Tony, he had a flat nose in boxing. He said, all right. So he says, right, it's us tonight then. Get what you can. Didn't work anything out. I'll be honest with you. I disappeared up my own arse. He blew me up, and he was just a magician in the ring. And these guys could do it. Then my next match, I was on with Bobo Matu, who was like that table. You couldn't bend him, you couldn't do anything. And the contrast in styles of different people, you had to be on the ball game. And don't forget, in them days, you would be in the Royal Albert Hall. And the next night, you'd be at Glasgow. Then the next night, you'd be down Ireland somewhere or on the holiday camps. Thousands and thousands of miles. And you had to try and hold a job as well.
Of course.
And unfortunately for me, I brought two kids up from the age of 9 and 6, and my wife passed away.
Yeah.
But I was at the meat market at 5 o'clock every morning, still grafting, trying to look after them and do this and that. My first wage was £6. But if I was wrestling 10 times a week, all them years ago, £60 was a lot of money.
Yeah, of course.
But that's what wrestling does for you. It's a good leveler.
Yeah. We haven't spoke about the British scene yet through the 70s and 80s. I'm really kind of interested in what the scene was like back then, because I think there were two main promotions, weren't there? With Dale Martin Promotions and Joint Promotions. So how was the scene back then? Was it quite political? If you worked for one, could you work for the other? How did it work back then in the 80s?
Basically, it was an era where Johnny Saint, one or two wrestlers, Johnny Saint, Rollerball Rocco, Michelle, maybe Frank Cullen, and a few others. I was with, let's say, Joint Promotions started then. And there used to be a promotion in Leeds called Railway Score Green, Morel and Beresford, and it was all over the place. And there were 6 promoters that formed Joint Promotions.
Right.
And then there was Brian Dixon that was in Birkenhead, who stayed as, we classed it as the opposition. And it never happened that you'd work for them. And all of a sudden, Rocco, myself, and Johnny Saint, Steve Gray, them matches that gelled, they started working for anybody. So then, let's say Jackie Pallo, why have I mentioned him? I don't know. But let's say Mick McManus and Jackie Pallo at the time. Then they would come up here, and it got to the stage then that you started going here, there, and everywhere for a week. So it was better like that. Because nobody knows this fact, and I don't know how they did it. But one Saturday, right, in the summer season, in all the country, England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. How many shows do you think there was on one Saturday in the summertime?
Poor. I'm gonna guess maybe 15, 20.
52.
Wow.
And you had to take a ring down in the morning, take it up there. Honest to God, it was like, and don't forget, and nobody's hit this yet. What was our shop window?
Maybe World of Sport, the TV.
Correct.
Yeah.
4 o'clock was an institution.
Every Saturday.
We beat the cup final. We did everything. Everybody went and got the coupon out after they'd been to the pub to see if they'd won the money. And then the old ladies and everybody and the poorly people and there's got all walks of life loved wrestling.
Yeah.
At 4 o'clock. So if me and you had a good match, we knocked shit out of each other, they'd look at the paper, they'll remember the match, and then they'd go and watch it at the halls. But, and I mean this sincerely, there were 10, 12 matches. There were 5 good matches. Somebody to get the crowd going, somebody to wrestle, probably bore them to death, but realise that it's wrestling. Then Big Daddy comes on with Haystacks, and then Les Kelly and Catweasel sends them home. Happy.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Indians. It was quality, value for money.
Well, it's how I got introduced to pro wrestling back in the mid to late 80s. Every Saturday, I'd go round my grand's. She would have wrestling on. She would be shouting at the TV, waving a walking stick, and I'd be thinking, what is this? I'd be mesmerised, and I think I was hooked from then, to be honest with you, Marty. So I probably saw some of your matches as a youngster. But I mean, back then, you know, you had your baby faces, you had your good guys, and you had your villains, didn't you? And you were all traditionally you were a baby face, weren't you? A good guy.
I was up north.
Oh right, okay. Tell me about it.
No, what happened when I went down south, up north? A lot of people knew me, but the thing is, if you was a good worker,
yeah,
you work the crowd no matter who's on with. Not, I've got to win because it's my own town. I went on with Pat Roach in my own town of Oldham. And Pat says, you can win tonight. I said, you're 7-foot giant and you want me to win? I said, no. He said, no, come on, I'll put you over in your own town. No, it just wouldn't happen. Right? And he'd respect you for that. And he'd give you one hell of a match. And the 90% of people couldn't grasp it. If I was beating somebody, the other guy would probably get 75% of the show. And I'd just beat him, so it just left them good. There's a lot of psychology in our game then that isn't there now.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some shows, and I do get it, don't get me wrong. Don't forget, in them days, it's £1.50 or 30p, whatever you want to get in. Liverpool Stadium, Bellevue, iconic halls. And another thing people don't realise, they weren't every month. They were every Friday, Saturday, Digbeth, every Thursday, every week. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
so they had to do something. Nowadays, I look at some of the halls, and I get it. It's me, I'm old-fashioned, but there's no chairs anymore on some shows. They've got a venue, and they're all there, stood up, all the students say, all the kids, students, they've all got a bottle of beer in their hand. That weren't allowed nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I get it, because they'll get the venue free because they're making a fortune behind the bar.
On the drinks, of course. Yeah, that's where.
And I love it, I love it when somebody comes to my gym and say, what do you want me to work, villain or babyface? And I said, I think I'll put you in a mask. Why? Because you're ugly. I say it all the time, just for a laugh.
Of course.
But what gets me, it don't matter who you was on with, you would work to get that crowd going, not for yourself. We had
Yeah.
lads that were grossly overweight that couldn't move. They never got off the feet in the middle of the ring. You know, you was
Yeah.
hitting them and they fall down, made them look good. Everybody made people look good. Hey, it's like your job, everybody's job. There was some guys, but I can honestly say, and I mean this hand on heart now, I never really had a bad match. I had some difficult matches, bullied every now and again. But it's good when your peers turn around to you nowadays and say, you was a hell of a worker. Great. I didn't even look the part. When I came out, I looked like a gynecologist. You know, some guys come out big and this, that, and they knew it is. And in nowadays, sometimes you play the music and you know who it is.
Yeah.
It's totally different. It totally is. But it's the entertainment business.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of entertainment, I mean, you wrestled a lot with Big Daddy against Giant Haystacks. Those are the two biggest names on the UK scene in the 80s. When you're in the venues and it's packed to the rafters, you've got everybody cheering, and you're in there with the two biggest stars on the scene in the UK. That must feel electric. That must feel very special. And then you're there as part of that story. Tell us about some of your experiences with Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks.
You see, a lot of people think that Big Daddy, let's just say, was like a big balloon or whatever. Right? I'll tell you something now. I live in Oldham. He lived in a place called Selby Bridge in Halifax. It's about 20 miles from my house. And he invited me down to his gym above the Co-op. And he used to pull around every week when he could do. What I mean by pull around, get big guys, and this, that, and the other to wrestle him. And he was a lifeguard with Big Daddy when he started off.
That's right.
And he was very, very fit and a big guy. His brother, Max, and Brian, the other one referee, were the business.
Yeah.
And Max saw, like I didn't say with William Regal, he saw a market for the kids' favourite. We shall not be moved.
That's
No
right.
matter what anybody says, I'll never forget this. Max Crampsey, 9 times out of 10, whoever I was on with, Rocco, Finley, or whatever, leave it to you. Yeah, you got a good show. And he does that with a lot of people. Big Daddy and Haystacks, they sold Wembley Arena out 3 times.
Incredible. Yeah.
How do you think we felt, me and Pete Roberts? Right, I think we did 10 5-minute rounds, something stupid like that. And we wrestled. Kept them entertained, but we kept them down for the main event. We had a hell of a match. And we did it. We kept them entertained. By the time we went up the stairs, Big Daddy and Haystacks were on the way out.
Right.
And it took them 18 minutes to get into the ring. They only did 3 minutes in the ring. And I'm thinking, what's all that about? I just done 50 minutes. John, you go for a walk for 50 minutes. Never mind, throw somebody about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And then I'm going, you know what they turned around and said?
Go on.
I don't think I'm allowed to say this. You couldn't pull a sycamore off a piss pot, he said, on your own. Big Daddy and Haystacks, they were the ones that was getting us the money. We were part of that show, though, and it's great in the bar after because I wore glasses.
Yeah.
I'd sit in the bar after, and then somebody would say, it was all right, that Big Daddy and all that. That's not... Hey, you know that guy, that boss-eyed kid? That was proper wrestling.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to hear. Then I did a career move. When I was down at Croydon and places like that, and Bristol, I was getting my own eat then with Danny Boy Collins, for arguing's sake, in Bristol. And then when I was down in Croydon, I won the belt there against Bobby Gaetano. So it was a special place for his Fairfield Hall. But then I went and said, look, I'm the best from the Northwest. They hated that. And especially when I started coming into Tina Turner, Simply the Best.
There you go.
So then I switched a little bit. Now, I weren't kicking up the bollocks or anything like that. I was heavy-handed but we still wrestled. And there was never two matches the same. I'll tell you now, I'm letting the cat out of the bag now. 9 times out of 10, nowadays, first move, tattle, set off, sleep, vault, hip toss. International, they call it.
Yeah.
Guess what?
You invented
Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth match. They're all doing the same stuff. Everybody's taking around the same stuff. Everybody's doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
There's a wrestler called Abe Ginsberg. I'd come back from Canada, and I used to do the sharpshooter, believe it or not. And I didn't know he did it, but he did it. It was a finish. I went on in Bolton. I put the sharpshooter on, this guy, and he kicked out. That was it. I went back to the changing rooms. He grabbed hold of me, threw me against the wall. He said, "You do that ever again." Hey, and Pete Ginsberg was an Andy Boots fighter, you know. I'm going, sorry. So what have I done wrong? That's my finish. And if you use my finish, you just let him kick out of it. Nobody kicks out of that. And I learnt my lesson.
Yeah.
There's a different style.
Marty, let me talk to you about Owen Hart, because we spoke about the Hart family. We spoke about Calgary earlier on. Now, when you were over in Calgary, Owen Hart would have been a teenager, I'd imagine. But in 1987, you fought him for the World Mid Heavyweight Championship. It was vacated at the time. You fought him. I think it was in a 30-minute match on TV. I think with Bradford or somewhere like that, where you two fought.
St George's Hall at Bradford. What happened?
That's right. Tell us about that match, because that's probably one of the matches you're most famous for, to be honest with you.
I'll tell you why.
Go on.
I'll tell you why. Yeah, when you say most famous for, it made me in a way, because I'd been on with Steve Wright, and Steve Wright was living in Germany. Yeah. And I dropped the belt to Steve Wright. Now, Steve Wright should have come back, and I won it back. Lo and behold, Steve Wright never come back. He went wherever he did. It just didn't happen. So they made the belt vacant. Now, I hadn't wrestled for a few years, Owen. He was coming to this country, championship match for the vacant title. St George's Hall, Bradford.
That's right.
Now, when you did television, there were 6 matches. 3 for 1 week and 3 for the next week. 2 Saturdays.
Yeah.
So if you was on second, you were top of the bill on the Saturday. If you was on 5th, you was top of the bill the next Saturday. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because the middle match was always top of the bill.
Yeah.
I'm on second. The weather was bad and no Owen Hart. Where is he? Been a delay in London. He should have been coming into Leeds, Bradford, but now they're going to Manchester. They sent a taxi to Manchester to go and meet him when they found out. Before the show started, obviously. So then the promoter said, "Look, I can't put you on second. You might not be here. You're going on 5th. Now, Owen had enough sense to put his gear on his gear on in the taxi.
Yeah. And
if I tell you without a word of a lie, I don't think he's going to be here for 5th. He always had a substitute then. I said, take the match off. You know, don't put it on.
Yeah.
I think it was something like Kid Chocolate or something, Alan Bardou. So I said, no, we'll have to go through it. All of a sudden, he burst through the door. Sorry for shit. Right. Yeah. The music's playing, and we went straight in without saying anything.
Wow.
And that match, right, was done from memory from Calgary. And this is what happens when we had signals, we could whisper a little bit, but don't forget, you couldn't say a lot because cameras are watching you.
Of course.
But what made it for me, Kent Walton, who's the voice of professional wrestling, he said, This is one of the best matches I've commentated on in all the years I've been doing the wrestling. Now, if Count Walton said, right, he takes his leg off in a minute and hits him over the head with it, the people at home would believe him. Because he was the voice. He was Mr. Wrestling.
Voice. He was the authority, the authority figure.
Right? And if I say it myself, I did enjoy the match myself. And yes, it came over pretty good.
I thought it's a stunning match.
That's the story of it.
I thought it was a fantastic match. And I mean, if we were to look over your career then, Marty, who were some of your favourite guys to get in the ring with? Who do you think you had the best chemistry with, and maybe some of your favourite matches with over time?
Well, obviously, it's the one that I got the most heat with. I mean, Rollerball Rocco was out of this world. But if you weren't careful, you got your teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
Because he was very erratic. He'd kick you in the back, and your second one, your teeth would end up in the third row. But you knew how to handle him. And we had that chemistry there. Cowboys, Indians, hammer and tongue.
Yeah.
I used to like, this one saying, it was good for me because if you're popular, I'm not saying popular with the lads or with the crowd, if you're popular with a promoter and you can work 5-6 times in a week, you're going on with the same guys every now and again. I mean, I never got on with Jackie Pallo. It's a well-known fact. I thought it was a load of shite. Mick McManus carried him for years. Probably get shot for saying it, but he did. But for me, he was an horrible man in the changing rooms. Then you could drop down the next day and go on with Billy Tarantus, who was a joke. But you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Les Kelly, if he didn't like you, he'd knock your head off. You had to be on your mettle all the time. I must admit, with Finlay, for me, it was a joy to work with him. And it was semi-shoot wrestling, really.
Yeah.
And you know that all these people, then you drop down to Pete Roberts, Terry Rudge, people like that. I mean, we have time to say it, but I just want your viewers or yourself, if we ever come on again, I'd like to do a questions and answers.
Absolutely.
Right? And what it is, promoter says to me, oh, you're on with an Australian guy. I think it was Rickmansworth. TV show. Now, there's a lot of history, he said, between England and Australia. In rugby, cricket, rugby, let's do it in wrestling.
Absolutely.
He said, this guy's on a world tour. I don't know what he's like. He's just been in Mexico. I went, where's he been? He's just been to Mexico. Oh, is that right? So, he gets to the changing room. Promoter said, if he's any good, why don't you let him win on TV and we can do a return in a month's time for TV? I said, no problem. Gets me TV exposure. No, not a problem. England versus Australia. Never. All I'm going to say is watch it. He comes in and Max Crabtree, the promoter, I forgot what his name was. He called him Digger Nolan.
Right.
And I can say, if the lads listening to this, they'll be laughing now. I'm telling you. So this guy, Digger Nolan, Australian, Max Crabtree buys him a hat and he puts all the corks on it. And he was a big lad, and size.
Yeah.
As soon as I walked in the changing rooms, there was a hush all of a sudden. Tony St. Clair went, give me the nod. Looks in the corner. I see the cork hatch on the hoop. So I walk over, go to shake hands with him. As I put my hand out, he slaps it so hard. Oh, I said, you're Digger Nolan, are you? He said, yeah. And by the way, I'm winning, he says. I said, all right. That was the last time we spoke.
Yeah.
Watch the match. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. I'm going to check that one out. One of my final questions then, Marty, is in all of your illustrious career, I mean, you've been in the business over 50 years, for man and boy. If there's one thing you can kind of pick up from your golden era, the 70s, the 80s, and put it into today's product to improve pro wrestling as a whole, what one aspect do you think we could kind of use or make the most of from something that worked back in your golden era that could work today?
Well, show your opponent some respect.
Right.
He's not there or she's not there. Just to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But Regal says the same thing. We know it's a sporting entertainment. We know that. But I'd like it to be competitive. I'd like it to be two, I can't say sports because they're not, but two people competing. Bring a bit of the sport back into it.
Exactly.
I love the glamour. I like the razzmatazz. I like all that. But look at Ricky Starr. I was in Mexico with Ricky Starr. We thought, who's this? What a wrestler he was.
Yeah.
But he did the ballerina stuff. Adrian Street.
Yeah. Amazing.
You know, they could all wrestle. And they all looked in fabulous shape. I've never lifted a weight in my life, you could tell. But I'll tell you what, my stamina was better than anybody's, or as good as anybody else. 12 5-minute rounds, that's an hour.
Yeah.
Go for a walk for an hour and see how you are, instead of throwing people about for an hour, and tell a story as well. You know,
yeah.
We've got to start. For me, you've asked me the question, and I'd like it to be get back a little bit of depicting the fight game.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think a lot of wrestling fans would agree with you. Yeah. A lot of wrestling fans would agree with you. And like I say, don't forget that it's an entertainment, but it's also, you know, somebody wants to see some good action.
I've lost the hall. This is off the press. Yeah. I've lost my local hall because I don't want to dwell on the fact that it's right or wrong. If they put asses on seats, it's either a quick fix or we've got to still be running every week for the next 3 years. Now, one of the matches, I'm not going to name who it is, but sorry, promotions, but it's right or wrong, so I don't want to get in an argument. I've got my own views, and I've been in trouble before by saying things, so I'm just going to say everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah. And
there was some publicity last week about a company that did one of these death matches or an hardcore match.
Yeah.
And he came in the ring with a strimmer. Right? And it was classed as a family show.
Kids and families, yeah.
And the kids got glass from the fluorescent tubes splattered in them. Yeah. I'm not interested. That's what I heard, whether it's a fact or not. We did a show, and the guy came to us and said, have you heard about such and such a thing? I said, yeah, I have, but don't worry, we're not like that. No, but if that's the way wrestling's going, he said, we don't want you again.
That's it. It's kind of tarnished the perception of British wrestling in a lot of people's minds. Yes.
And I would like, I know it's difficult, some of these girls, right, they've got to be respected. They're knocking shit out of each other, right? And I'm not into gender matches, you know, boy and girl and this, that. Don't ask me why, but I like seeing two girls get stuck in and knocking shit out of each other. And I like watching the flip-floppy matches, let's call it.
Sure.
Go to Japan in our day with Carl Gotch. Try it, John. You have to do 1,000 squats before you can come back to the gym.
Wow.
What they used to do is draw around your foot. You could have a drink. You can stop. You couldn't go to the toilet. Had to do 1,000 squats. Doesn't matter how long it took you. But if you didn't do 1,000 squats, come back when you can do 1,000 squats. What qualifications do you need to be a wrestler?
Well, I don't suppose you need any qualifications, but you need a lot of fitness and a lot of stamina.
And what about them people that haven't got them?
Well, some do still make it in the business, but probably not to the top level.
I honestly think, everybody to their own, because I'm not getting involved with it. But it just needs something, not a panel. You don't need this. It needs a bit of credibility coming back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I get you, 100%, 100%.
But
Marty,
it's a fabulous business to be in, and I just hope it doesn't die off quickly. And all I'll say is, I know now that I want to just very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm like disabled at the moment. It breaks my heart. I'm under the surgeon 3 years for snapped ankles. And guess what the surgeon said? Oh, this is Marty Jones. He used to be a wrestler. Who? Fair enough. Oh, I remember Big Daddy and I remember this. I said, yeah, I was the same time as them. Oh, yeah, okay. He's just put 17 screws in my foot. You know what he turned around and said?
What?
That wrestling's all fixed, isn't it?
I know that this is something that kind of upsets you at the moment because, like I say, you had a long and very, very successful career traveling around the world, wrestling the very best that the world had to offer. And like I say, in later years, you got health issues with your legs and your knees, your ankles, and people still don't fully understand, unless they're a fan of the sport. They don't understand how physical
John,
and how demanding it is.
I started wrestling when I was 6.
Of course.
I'm 67 now. I know I don't look it, right? But John, that's 61 years of wrestling.
Yeah.
And amateur wrestling takes its toll. This job takes its toll, right? But I would not swap it for anything. All them so-called clever Charlies who was in my class, who were solicitors and all that, they've not been outside of Oldham. I've been around the world twice, let's say.
Yeah.
Met a lot of incredible people. People say who's the most famous person you've met. You know who it was? Muhammad Ali. You know what I mean? How many people have met him? I don't mean watched him, met him.
Yeah.
And
like
being
that. On the same card as him, you was on the same bill.
Yeah, but like I said, I've met some incredible people and I ain't finished yet because I just want to carry on. But can I just say, these people that have come through the squared circle,
go for it,
right? That, like I said, you talk about Rio, you talk that girl in Mexico, Jessie Jackson, and Myla Smith, Myla Grace, and all the girls.
Yeah.
And the good thing with the guy like Saxon Huxley and people like that, Ridge Holland, there's a lot of them that haven't been given the opportunity. Now, all them look the part. They've got some body on them, right? I'm just grateful that I got what I got out of the business, but I ain't finished yet because what I want to do is if anybody comes, ask me straight, what do you think, this, that, and the other? Let's talk about it. Let's put practice makes perfect and see how well you go. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you've got to be respectful in this business and have no edge on you whatsoever, else you'll get found out. Simple as that. And I'd like to thank you for doing a professional podcast, you call them, or whatever.
You're very welcome, Marty. You've been a pleasure to speak to. But Marty, just one final thing. Square Circle Pro Wrestling Academy. If anybody is interested in getting in touch, interested in starting their career in wrestling, or maybe starting with yourself, how can they get in touch and how can they start their professional wrestling career with you?
Well, it's like not just my gym, a lot of good gyms up and down. We're on Facebook as a Squared Circle Academy. You can just get in touch with that. But we've got an open door. It's on the Squared Circle page.
Yeah.
You can come down and, I mean, with the COVID, we was hit bad with the latest gym we've been to. We'd only been there a week and then COVID kicked in. But we got away with it because it was like our job, if you know what I mean. We said we had to do it, but the outside public couldn't come in.
Yeah.
So we had to close down our what we call junior section, and we've never started it back really. But I don't take under 14s in.
Right.
Now we're getting a lot of 15-year-olds wanting to start this, that, and the other, and we treat them all the same. And for those people that think that it's a joke and it's a laugh and this, that, and the other, all I say to you is have a go. Have a go, simple as that. But like I said, all them girls and anybody who's gone through the squared circle, and a big thank you, is one thing the squared circle has got. All the promoters, if you want to go to Australia, I've got 5 girls going to Israel next week.
That's great. That's really great.
I mean, Ava White, she's so busy now. She came up to the, right? And like I say, there's Heidi and there's Myla, there's all these people that, yeah, they've listened a bit, they've done their own, but they're all fantastic athletes anyway.
Yeah.
But I just tend to do a little bit different than all the others. I've gone back to old school ways. And I honestly believe that our business at the moment, it's like fashion. The miniskirts coming back, the boob tops are coming back, the suits are coming back, and wrestling's the same.
Yeah.
Because they've tried everything else. Even the American public are all razzmatazz and glitz and glamour and all that. But now they're getting a bit, hey, that was good wrestling.
Yeah.
That was all right. Had a better credibility in it.
Everything comes back round, doesn't it? Everything comes back round. But seven-time former world champion, trainer to the past, present, and the future, Marty Jones. You've been an absolute superstar, and I want to thank you for coming on the show today.